All right, we are live. We will let the people trickle in. We will let my guest, Mike Braude, share this out. And to set the table for you guys, Mike is a guy that I have been following for a while in fantasy. He has a great blog over at Apex Fantasy. He has a cool format for fantasy leagues. And of course, what really speaks to me is Mike is very open to a zero RB build. I know he's had a lot of success doing that. Mike, us zero RB guys have to stick together.
Oh, we have to. And we're being attacked from all angles. When we talk about a Matt Kelly, he used to be one of our allies. I actually listened to a podcast of his from years ago, and he's talking of himself as a zero running back draft pick, which I kind of forgot over time. But now to hear that when he kind of wants nothing to do with zero running back anymore, aligning himself with the fantasy football counselor as a robust running back drafter. Yeah, we need as many allies as we can get. Me, you, Sean, whoever else is willing to join the team. CD Carter, we got open seats at the table.
We do. I know Matt Kelly was quite the heel turn from him. I did not ever think we would lose him to the robust RB Lions, but we did. Speaking of robust RB Lions, we are underway here. The draft is going to get rolling, and we drew the 6th slot here, Mike. Not necessarily the most attractive slot here. What's your immediate thought when you find yourself in the middle of the round?
So obviously there's a drop off in value, and that's what's not great about 6. But what I like being in the middle is if value is falling, you can grab it from either way rather than being stuck on the end where it's kind of difficult to get value or you only have one opportunity to get value.
Yeah, for sure. I'm doing the pros versus Joes on Sunday, and I have the 12 slot, and I don't love it for that exact same reason. Is it always feels like that second pick you're really having to reach for somebody.
Yeah, there's kind of a big tier after the first 5 players. So it becomes difficult, but I think we'll be able to have a good draft here.
Yeah, I think we will too. I mean, it kind of ensures us when you look at the top 6 here. These are kind of actually, I think these are actually Sean's rankings that I imported in here. But they're a little old, so we won't hold these fully against Sean.
Okay, so this is an ADP. This is what other people are looking at.
So you can see the ADP to the right, and then I have them in. It was an old set of Sean's rankings, but it does look like we're going to get a top 5 running back or Michael Thomas from this slot. Unless, is there someone out of this 6 that you would consider?
No, this is basically the 6 that I would take as the top 6. So no change here. And maybe if the first 5 running backs go first, we'll have ourselves a nice zero running back draft here.
I know. I've done a couple of them of late. I did a true one with Anthony Amico a few weeks ago. And then Jen and I, we did a modified. We took a pit stop for Chris Carson in the 4th after a zero RB start. And normally it's not my favorite thing to do, but we really lucked out because we got Zach Ertz fell to us in the 5th.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think that Carson is kind of discounted this year, and I'm not really sure why. If the Seahawks open up their offense, it doesn't really hurt him, and they'll have more touchdown opportunities. So I'm not sure why drafters are discounting him, but he may be the last kind of bankable workhorse running back available at times.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's the thing too. And I think if you're getting those guys at a discount, or obviously you don't have the foresight of knowing a guy like Zach Ertz, who I would normally consider in the 4th there, if he's falling to the 5th, yeah, I will totally take that detour to grab Carson. Let's check in on a few people in the chat. We got some regular drafters with us here. John Atlas is in. Holloman's drafting from mobile, but he promises to snipe us at every pick. My guy Willis didn't get in. And of course, we got Eric Hilaire, who his now claim to fame is he's never not been in a draft with me. So we got some sharp drafters in here we have to worry about, but we can still speak freely about all of our thoughts here.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So it looks like all running backs off the board so far. Sorry to cut you off.
No, not at all. I was just going to ask if you had drafted in this specific contest before.
I have not. I haven't participated in many drafts this year outside of like fundraiser type drafts. So it looks like we're on the clock, and I think we're starting with Michael Thomas.
Let's do it. I mean, we have Mike Braude on. I think we have to do a zero RB build, which is this.
I will correct you. My last name is actually Brody. It looks like it's Braude. I get this all the time. No, you are all good. I got this every day the first day of high school every year, so I'm used to it. But it is pronounced Brody. although it's spelled Braude.
I appreciate you correcting me right away in case I say it over and over again, and then you're like, oh, why didn't I get a hold of that early? Are there now, again, everyone has their limits of how far they're willing to push zero RB. Are there running backs, if they're available in the second with this build, that really make you pause, or are you just ready to rifle through with wide receiver or tight end?
I can go either way in the second round because I kind of think that that's the last chance to get a running back. Either you get it in the first, you get it in the second, or you're kind of waiting unless you get a good spot at like Chris Carson. Because a lot of the fourth round running backs, I don't really like. Third round, I don't know that they're great values unless somebody falls. And then I kind of target those rookie running backs. So it is one of those points where I think wide receivers and running backs are closer. But it looks like everybody's taking all running backs right here. So I'm guessing the value is going to be a wide receiver or tight end.
Yeah, I mean, the way I've been kind of thinking about the back end is, I don't mind Sanders if he falls. I'm kind of torn on Kenyon Drake, and then it's like Eckler is really the only guy in the second round that I'm really interested in. Are there any other names that you might view similarly with the RB truthers?
Yeah, I think Aaron Jones is the only other one that pops into mind just because he has those skills of pass catching back. And I think that A.J. Dillon's mainly going to take Jamal Williams' work, at least on the ground. But I don't know that I love him at 19 overall. I'd like to be able to grab him a little bit later. So I'm kind of with you.
Yeah, Aaron Jones is so tricky for me because, the A.J. Dillon draft capital is significant, and A.J. Dillon, has a pretty interesting profile. But to your point, if you remove Jamal Williams from the equation and we don't project, Dillon to be a big pass catcher, and we could lock up Aaron Jones with the full pass catching role, that's really intriguing. I guess I am still a little worried about Jamal Williams not getting fully phased out of that.
No, I totally get it. But if you look at Aaron Jones in the past, he's never really gotten that full workload, and maybe A.J. Dillon does take away some of his market share. I think his receiving value was a lot of what made him really valuable, and I'm not sure A.J. Dillon's going to take that work. But I'm with you. At 19 overall, he's still kind of a little sketchy.
Yeah. It's I did see Sean pulled the trigger on him in a recent draft. He was writing it up, and it definitely made me want to give him a second look because he's just been a guy I've been avoiding. But like you said, you can find yourself in some really tricky positions here where, in the season long leagues, we just did a Football Guys where we did true zero RB. And, with the chaos of this season, I think the waiver wire is going to be very beneficial. But in this best ball format, you can find yourself in some precarious positions, especially when there's wide receivers in that 6 to 9 range, 10 range that I like as well. So it's just trying to figure out those 2v2s is how I think about it.
Yeah, I look at it more through the lens of setting lineups weekly rather than best ball. But in best ball, certainly you need to get those running backs earlier. It makes it a little bit more difficult. And wide receivers tend to slide down the board.
So Eckler does go.
Okay.
Looks like we have some good wide receiver options here with, would you consider Aaron Jones here? Jacob goes, or do you want to grab a wide receiver? What do you like here?
I think we go with Godwin.
Yeah.
But I guess if we wanted to take a stab at running back, I just don't know that Chubb's going to have that receiving value. I'm not a CEH guy, especially with what's going on. So it would be Aaron Jones or Chubb if we did want to switch over to running back. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I haven't been drafting Chubb at all, although I will say I don't see him fall this far normally, especially on a board. You normally see Eckler go after him. I don't mind Edwards Hilaire in the third. I have not been taking him in the second. I say we play our board. I say we grab Godwin here.
I'm with you.
Let's do it. Definitely love that start. The thing Sean talks about a lot too with this is just like you're already at a disadvantage when you're, picking towards the back half. And if you're just trying to chase those bell cow backs, you're just going to have a watered down version of the team that the people in the first 4 picks have. So it's like, that's not a way to win. You're not trying to imitate their team with less, players of less caliber.
Exactly. And only one team wins. And it's not like Chubb or Aaron Jones come without their concerns. If we were sure that they were going to be workhorses, then we could take them. But with Hunt, Chubb didn't look so great at the end of last year. And Aaron Jones with Dillon coming in, those are a little concerning.
Yeah, so Nick here with a comment. I will just say, I'm sure Mike and I are going to talk about zero RB plenty on this stream. I will also put in a plug tonight. We are having Sean Siegel, the zero RB go on our ship chasing podcast, and we're going to be interviewing him, and we'll get way more into the weeds about this. But like I said, Mike and I will talk about this a bit. Now, the one thing I would point out here, Mike, and I'd be curious your thoughts when he says, I understand the value argument. That's actually what zero RB is pushing against, is value-based drafting. What are your thoughts when you see a question like this?
I think people are right to be skeptical. And if this is referring to going zero running back in a best ball draft, then I totally understand the concerns. But I do think with a waiver wire and with all these rookie running backs that you're able to get late and value picks, like even if you're worried about Cam Akers because of COVID, there's guys like Darrell Henderson that maybe you're able to achieve a breakout. There are kind of some late round running backs that are falling. I don't know that they'll fall as far in this draft because it's best ball. But I am certainly convinced that zero running back works in a format where you're able to start 3 wide receivers and a flex that's full PPR, and that you're able to use the waiver wire to your advantage.
Yeah, and to his follow-up question, he's identifying Mixon and Chubb here, and what scares me about them, guessing it's what scares Mike about them too, is just how much you can project them catching passes. We know in these full point PPR things how important that is. That's why the top 5 picks are so valuable, because we know these guys are going to catch passes. They're the full true bell cow role, and people want these guys to be that, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that they aren't, especially with Chubb and Kareem Hunt now playing a full season. There's little reason to think Chubb is going to catch a lot of passes. And while Mixon started or finished the season well with a little bit more work, the first half of the season, he was getting no passing work. It was all Geo. And so I don't know, Mike, do you feel similar about the kind of concerns I have about these guys?
Yeah, I do. And because they're both guys that don't catch passes, I'm not sure that there's a huge difference between them and Chris Carson, who we can get later. Carson also is getting 18 to 20 carries a game. He's going to be on a very good offense. And if they decide to open up their playbook a little bit more and pass more, he can get more involved in the passing game. I'm not worried about Hyde, who already came out and said that he's basically a backup to Carson. And Rashad Penny's coming off an injury. So I see Carson as pretty low risk and an arbitrage play to the other guys that were mentioned.
Yeah. Yep. What do we got, Drake, here? Chubb in full PPR is RB2. Hunt going much later versus ADP and has an RB2 low, RB1 upside. I think what he's kind of hinting at is that their ADP should probably be a little closer together, which I definitely agree with. And I think there's also just a lot of uncertainty about this Browns offense in general, and wondering how they're going to look. I mean, based on how everyone is getting drafted, Odell's still being drafted fairly aggressively. We know Landry's a stud, although he's coming off that injury. The thing with Chubb, and when you take away the pass catches, you really need him to have the Derrick Henry type season where he's ripping off long runs and getting into the end zone on some of those long runs. And as we know, there's a lot of variance to those kind of things, and it's hard to project.
I think you hit the nail on the head. That's the concern with these guys, is to score a lot of fantasy points and be a running back one, you need to score a lot of touchdowns and you need to catch passes. And we're already ruling out catching passes for Chubb. It becomes very difficult for him to be one of those top 5 running backs, which is what we're looking for here. So I have those same concerns. And that's one of the reasons that I like Aaron Jones's profile a little more.
For sure. And Harbs here tosses in, he's bullish on Mixon because he was on such a bad team last year, actually has positive touchdown regression. I think that is definitely the half glass full case on Mixon in that offense this year. Do you think that Burrow really can elevate them right out of the gate?
I think it's very difficult to have high expectations for a rookie quarterback. And then you throw in COVID and a lack of practice time. So I don't have hugely high expectations for him. I think that he'll be an improvement on the offense, but I think we should expect a bigger leap in year 2 rather than year 1.
So we're about to have a very interesting decision here, depending on what Jordan does. You mentioned you don't love Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. Does that change for you in the mid-3rd, or are you still out on him there?
I think if there's an opportunity to take him, this may be the opportunity. I don't love that Damien Williams is good in that role, and he hasn't had a lot of practice time to show he can do things like blitz pickup. But he does have a good floor in terms of his pass catching profile.
Yeah, and then let's hit on the other things here. So Mike Evans would also be in consideration. That would pretty much ensure that we go out of our way to get Brady for that double stack in this format with a big prize up top. And then the other one, of course, is Mark Andrews. We know that getting that elite tight end in the best ball format is nice too. So we have all three of those options. Where do you lean?
I'm kind of leaning Andrews right now, but the difficult part with that is if Ertz falls to the next round, then you kind of aren't so happy with that pick. Who are the top running backs? It's CEH, Jonathan Taylor.
Fournette, Gurley, Connor, Bell.
It's so gross.
It's really so gross.
I think Andrews. What do you think about that? I'm also in for Evans. I like both of them.
Yeah, I do too. I have been drafting Andrews around this range just a ton. You know, I'm a firm believer that he's going to ascend to be right up there with kind of Kittle and Kelsey in that elite tier. So structurally, I love the Andrews pick. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah.
Say no more.
Yeah.
So I have an idea for you. You're very much like the comedy and fantasy football, the niche. You research things. You made the Roto World podcast, which I loved. I think we need a who is the fantasy douche with like some research. Like, who is this guy who created RotoViz? Is Frank DuPont even his real name? Like, who is this guy?
Here's
I think
the thing.
Everybody would love that, but he wants to be mysterious.
Here's the thing. I know all those answers. I have hung out with fantasy douche. I've had beers with fantasy douche. Yeah.
You are a lucky man. I communicated with him for years writing for RotoViz, but I didn't know much about him. I believe I was told his profession, but that's about all I knew.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure there are people even watching this stream who aren't old enough to remember who the fantasy douche is. He is, of course, the founder of RotoViz, and he had a Twitter account that got converted over to a RotoViz Twitter account. And he was just very brilliant, very funny. I feel like I'm talking about him like he's dead, but I miss him in this community so much. And you mentioned the Roto World podcast. He was who we worked on the Fantasyland podcast, and we did an episode on zero RB and these kind of long form deep dives, and getting to work with him and learn from him. He's just, as you know, just unbelievably brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, he started RotoViz from scratch, and now we all know RotoViz for all their tools and their analytics, but initially it started with him. I believe he wrote a book about edges to gain, and that became a website with blog articles, and from there it really just took off.
Yeah. Yep. And, the other thing that he did so well too is, and I think Sean, carries this torch, which is taking kind of analytical, sometimes complex ideas and presenting them in a super digestible, succinct fashion, which is, you can read some really smart people, but you're like, what are you trying to say? I can't parse this data. And having that skill to really simplify it, I think, really shows you understand the material.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And I think Sean used to be a teacher. I don't remember if he was an English teacher, but I think his ability to write about fantasy football is the best in the industry.
For sure. We're going to check in on Eric here, who is pretty stoked on his chief sheet here. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Mahomes to start. That is pretty nice. Chris wants me to get my drafters balance up. Yeah, the deposit king is going to have to be moving here. We're down to 35 cents. Okay, we are heading into the fourth round here. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire finally does go back into the third. Jonathan Taylor goes, David Johnson. So, this is the true zero RB test, right? Because we're going to be faced with a structural decision and most likely having to pass over a wide receiver we like a good bit. Although I will say, Mike, this tier thinned out with AJ Brown, Thielen, and Ridley all going kind of early.
Totally. And if we can push more wide receivers, it's great for us. Hopefully, I mean, I know some people are listening to this. I don't know how many people in the draft are listening to this, but yeah, draft your wide receivers. It's a great time to get them.
Yeah, no, they know. Guys like Eric knows my strategy more than I even know it at this point. So he's heard me talk through. So at this point, I just speak freely, and whatever happens. But yeah, it is like on this specific board, normally it's like, okay, I'm not passing up AJ Brown for Chris Carson. But if we're down here in this tier, Keenan, Diggs, Woods, and we think, some other guys I like Sutton and Metcalf, we can get McLaurin later. It's like, maybe this is the time to take the pit stop for the RB.
There's Carson. Eric's listening to us. There we go, Eric.
I lied. I said that I didn't mind talking freely. Now I'm actually pissed, Eric. Come on.
He drafted a quarterback, but he was 0 running back up until the 4th round. So also, you didn't mention Kupp, which I thought was interesting. Are you kind of anti-Kupp? Are you worried about the Rams changing and having Josh Reynolds on the field, or did you just pass him by?
Yeah, so it's a few things. I think there's guys I like more than him, always, like on either side. And also I do have concerns of, I just don't know what happened at the end of the season. I remember his game in London where he blew up, and then it was like he was phased out of the offense, and Robert Woods and Gerald Everett were the top 2 targets. And what is your thought on what happened with him down the stretch last year? Because it was pretty bizarre.
Yeah, he definitely was phased out a little bit as the Rams kind of changed their formation. But I think McVay, of all people, is smart enough to realize that he has a unique skill set and has done really, really well. Kupp is often underappreciated. He was a wide receiver 4 last year?
Yeah.
And we don't even want to take him with our 4th round pick?
Ooh, there goes.
There he goes. Okay, so what do we have on the board here?
So wide receivers, definitely some guys that I think could fall to us in the 5th. For running backs, we have Fournette all the way here in the mid 4th. Connor. This draft has been more wide receiver heavy than usual. What are your thoughts?
I'm so not a Fournette drafter.
Me either.
But just because I think we're going to get somebody from this tier anyway at wide receiver, whether it's DK Metcalf or McLaurin or Sutton, there's quite a few guys in this tier. I'm even advocating for Fournette right now, but by ADP, it's a value pick.
That's what it's. I haven't drafted Fournette, I don't think, once this season, but I mean, we're getting a 10-pick discount on him in the 4th round. I mean, this might be the time for us to get our 1 Fournette share.
Let's do it. Oh, I haven't drafted him this year. This is the situation where you draft Leonard Fournette. You heard it here first.
We did it. We had our bill. It hurts. This is the nice thing too about when you go this 0 RB approach, by not reaching here. Say if we reach for one of these running backs, then we are reaching for wide receivers in a pretty flat tier that I think we kind of both agreed was flat. And instead now our 2v2 of Michael Thomas versus Fournette looks pretty good against someone's Mixon and Kupp, right? Like when you do that 2v2, like give me the Thomas Fournette side every time.
I'm with you. It's kind of a weird situation with Fournette. We don't know how it's going to play out. And that may present an interesting buying opportunity where you're getting a discount on a guy that caught a lot of passes and was a workhorse last year. And although they have Raquel Armstead, it's not like they have a hugely talented backup that they're just very excited to set free. So 0 running back frauds. Okay.
The chat there's a few people in the chat who are wondering why we went Fournette over Connor. I want to hear your thought.
I think I've heard some good points. I think it was on the Evan Silva Establish the Run podcast where he kind of advocated for Connor, as the Steelers like using a bell cow. It's just, I don't know that Connor's that good of a player. I guess him and Fournette both have that injury risk. I'm just not a huge Connor guy. Obviously, he can catch passes and he has that upside. Is McFarland going to get some playing time? I don't know. I think mainly the pick is made on ADP, and if you have a bunch of drafts, then you'll be able to get Connor at a cheaper price. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I'm the same way. My concern with Connor is, first of all, he's, coming off the injury stuff. He has the potential to get squeezed in a lot of different directions. The team likes Benny Snell, who has proven he can be a goal line early down rusher. We know Jalen Samuels is a capable pass catcher. They add McFarland too. So there's just so many factors and ways that he can be squeezed. I certainly see the case for the upside scenario. And maybe you say, okay, we're drafting in the best ball championship, just shoot for upside. But I also think Fournette has that somewhat Eckler appeal in that he's going to give you such a high floor with the pass catching. And on top of that, he also has a path to goal line work. So I just see his ceiling being so much more significant than Connor in certain contexts, even though maybe we all like, as a runner, we think James Conner is a better runner, which I'm sure we could all agree with, but that's not how fantasy points are fully scored.
Yeah, I mean, Fournette caught a ton of passes last year. It didn't really seem like that was his profile, but he showed last year he can do it. And maybe the Jags take a step forward with Gardner Minshew this year.
Yeah. And, and people are talking, it's definitely fair to bring up Chris Thompson. They bring him in. To me, that's more of a That's more of a depth add. I mean, they literally last year it was just him and Raquel Armstead, and what they had like Devin Azigbo, like a fullback in there as well. So they needed a body, and he will definitely maybe steal some of those targets. I actually think LaVisca is going to steal some of the things. I mean, he caught, what did he have? 100 catches last year. So, but when you're drafting him in the 4th round, we are baking in regression to his catches already.
Exactly. And his ADP for average drafters is obviously much higher. Chris Thompson, I mean, you could kind of make the same argument for James Conner in terms of somebody like Jalen Samuels maybe stealing some pass down work. But Chris Thompson's kind of at an age where I'm not sure that he's the same player. He suffered a lot of injuries. And I remember one year he played like half the season, like 6 to 8 games, and he was phenomenal for 0 running back teams. Do you remember that, Pete?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if he's the same player at this point. So I'm not as worried about Chris Thompson. I agree it's a depth signing.
So this draft is very wide receiver heavy, rightfully so. To me, we have 2 good options here, Diggs and McLaurin. Is there anyone else you would consider?
No, I was looking at those 2 as well. I'm so not a T.Y. Hilton guy, and Landry has those injury concerns.
Yeah. So who do you lean on, Diggs, McLaurin? I feel McLaurin is definitely, it's weird that it shows these ADPs because I just feel like anecdotally McLaurin's been going ahead of Diggs in most drafts, but neither will make it back to us. So we can definitely just pick our favorite.
Yeah, I think that McLaurin's efficiency is going to go down now that defensive coordinators kind of know that he's the weapon on that team. But that 2nd-year leap, I think he'll be better this year. So he's a very enticing pick. And the Bills gave up a lot to get Diggs. And I really hope, like Sean said on his most recent pod, that Buffalo really wants to use him like an Antonio Brown. He made the decision easy for us.
They made it easy for us. I do feel like we were fortunate there because I think McLaurin and Diggs is the end of this little tier here too.
I'm 100% with you. I can't get behind T.Y. Hilton there, Landry there. And then it kind of falls off to that Boyd Landry tier.
Yeah. So, we have a very nice structural build right here in that it gives us a lot of flexibility to really kind of draft the best players. We don't have to worry about, now that we grab Fournette, we don't have to panic reach for, say, one of these rookie running backs that feels a little pricey necessarily. They might be there. So I just like getting that elite tight end, taking the detour for a running back because it just gives us full optionality.
Totally. And I think that you look back in hindsight on drafts and you see if you made the right decision. And with us taking Andrews in the 3rd, the question is, was Ertz going to make it back to us in the 4th? And he did not. So that kind of confirms that it was a good pick, in my opinion.
So the other thing that this puts us in the range for here as well is an elite quarterback. And based on how this draft is going and the fact that we haven't seen anyone after the big 2, it definitely puts that in play for us. The other considerations here are, potential stacks. Obviously Lamar's gone, so that's not happening for Andrews. The other stacks with Breeze and Brady and obviously Haskins, those are pretty cheap stacks. So how do you think about that as far as taking a pit stop for an elite quarterback versus waiting and maybe trying to get a stack?
I want to look at the board a little bit and who's there at running back and quarterback.
Yeah.
So let's see who we have there. Sean really likes Devin Singletary, who I think is interesting. I'm not a Mostert guy, and I very much like Cam Akers and Swift, I think are both good. And Ingram, I think you can make a pretty strong argument for as well. Just because of the COVID stuff. Like, I think Dobbins is a really good player, but it's concerning about how many touches he's going to get in this COVID shortened offseason.
Yeah, no, for sure. The thing that, Sean is definitely the one that gives me pause on Singletary. I've become such a big Moss guy, and not even as him as a, some special talent, but just his ADP and what he's stepping into, and the fact that he was actually a really good pass catcher in college, and Singletary actually wasn't that efficient as a pass catcher last year. So I think there's lots of pass to everyone kind of assumes, oh, Zach Moss is just going to be Frank Gore. But if it's like, oh no, there's some room for more pass catching work, and he's maybe even more explosive, like that starts to get me pretty excited. And I think just wanting to draft him over Singletary in most situations. Yeah,
I really like Moss as well. But I'm kind of at the point where I think maybe they could both end up being values if they fall far enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see here. I do have somebody in mind. I don't know if I say it out loud.
Go for it.
Especially with Eric. I like Cam Akers a lot.
Yeah.
And I like Henderson too. So I guess that's kind of concerning that maybe they split, but Gurley, I think, has like 46 touchdowns over the last 3 years. So I kind of want to jump on that Rams backfield. I think everybody's overreacting to the Rams season where they kind of struggled, but I'm still not ready to throw in the towel on McVay. And to think that you can get their starting running back in the middle of round 6, that's the kind of stuff that you need to make zero running back work.
See, this is what happens in these chats. Someone announces that they're taking Chenault in the 9th. I mean, I don't know if we're going to call your bluff on that one or not. My concern with Akers, it's, the combination of McVay's willingness to use a big running back committee. Mm-hmm. It sounds like they still like John Kelly a little bit. They like Henderson. Goff has been talking him up. And then the actual biggest concern for me, aside from coach speak, is just how little they targeted the running back in the pass game last year. But again, I certainly see the upside scenario, and I don't think in the 6th round there's a huge opportunity cost to taking him.
Yeah, and I think that we may be overreacting to last year where they didn't throw to running backs that much, but Gurley had some high reception seasons prior to last year. Oh, Singletary went. Okay. So there's Akers that we have.
Yeah, there's Akers. I mean, I still think some of these wide receivers we like could fall to us.
Yeah, me too.
Kyler Murray goes, so Watson and Prescott, but because neither of them and Wilson offer a really
they're
obvious
all in the same tier. Yeah, I think Akers is the best tier break here.
Let's do it. I've seen Akers going in the 5th. That always seems a little rich to me, but here in the 6th, I don't mind it. What was his ADP? Actually, I wanted to see here. He's been going 60. Okay, so we got him right about ADP.
67 pick.
He definitely goes a little earlier in FFPC leagues. I don't know. Is he? What about in Apex? Has he been going around there?
Yeah, he's been going earlier than 67. Yeah. I think people are enthusiastic about the rookies, but I don't know when the pendulum swings to the COVID impact. How do you feel about COVID impacting different positions, like running backs or wide receivers or Burrow? What do you think the impact will be?
In relation to kind of like training camp or just overall?
To how they'll do this season.
Yeah. So my thing is, I feel like it's been a cliche at this point to be like, the rookies are going to be slow starters, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Because of that, I think it could be mitigated by the kind of, Rolodex of people coming in and out because of having to sit out in that these rookies are going to have maybe earlier opportunities than they would otherwise. And I'm not concerned about it for the running backs as much either, because we know that that's a position that these guys can pick up fairly quickly. And then my other macro thought is just, this is an incredible year for zero RB. If you assume that there's going to be lots of scratches and lots of chaos at all positions, the positions that benefit the most from chaos in fantasy are running backs, and they're going to step into more obvious roles than the wide receivers and tight ends will be. So I do think this is setting up for the best year of zero RB ever. I think you're ludicrous to not be drafting these wide receivers and stashing your bench with all these running backs that could just luck into big opportunity.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree with you. And I do kind of side with the argument where it's negligible, but I do think that maybe early in the season it has an impact. Hopefully we don't see a COVID shortened season. I would not like to see that. Yeah. But yeah, this rookie running back class is really, really good. Whether you're talking about Akers or Moss or Jonathan Taylor, Jonathan Taylor is arguably the perfect running back prospect, except maybe some questions about receiving. And I think that while Zeke went in the 1st round, Saquon went in the 1st round, sometimes you're getting Jonathan Taylor in the 4th. And this is a 226-pound guy who runs a 4.39 behind the Colts offensive line. And you can argue that Mac was good last year, but I think he was just maybe above average when Taylor is special. And I think there's a chance that we kind of see him on the field and he just pops immediately.
Yeah, and the thing to remember about these, when we're trying to chase, say, wide receiver rookie breakouts, those historically always take a little bit of time. Even the transcendent talents, I always think of the Odell Beckham or last year, A.J. Brown. Those were all the second half of the season stretches. So I think we're going to have to be patient no matter what on those guys. And I think there's going to be enough chaos at the running back position that any of these rookies could step in and contribute right away.
Yeah, it looks like we got a response on Twitter that we sniped someone on cam.
Oh, yeah, that's Jordan right behind us here in the 5 hole. So one thing that's really interesting with this draft, and I think I feel very vindicated that we went wide receiver, tight end to start, is that there's some really good running back values that are getting pushed down right now, especially with guys like Hearst going this early. I mean, let's check in on the board here. I mean, we still have Dobbins. I mean, to me, Dobbins is really interesting if he's there. What else are you liking?
I really like Dobbins. If you could scroll down a little bit, that would probably help. Kirk, I love. I am a big Hunter Henry guy. Obviously, we're not near that point just yet. But yeah, Dobbins and Kirk, I like. It looks like Kirk's ADP is pretty high here. He seems to fall time and time again, but I do think that there's a chance that he sees the benefit of having Hopkins on the other side of the field, like Will Fuller has benefited from for years.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Jordan does here. I mean, Kirk's ADP 89, so probably not going to make it back to it.
Okay.
Okay, so Ingram goes. I mean, do you want to go Dobbins?
I say we do it. Let's do our rookie running back, zero running back build here.
These are two guys that I normally don't get just because they're going like 5 or 6 spots ahead of this.
Yeah, I mean, imagine a scenario where Ingram is out early in the season. I mean, J.K. Dobbins is a league winner.
Yeah, and so look at this. So J.K. Dobbins has been going at pick 69. Nice. I mean, we get him at 78, almost a full 10 picks later. It's the same thing with Fournette. They are tying our hands and forcing us to take these running backs, Mike.
Yeah, we're seeing a tight end run early that I'm pretty surprised about, seeing Hayden Hearst go in front of Ingram. I'm a little bit worried about Hearst changing teams, but obviously he goes into a good situation that Austin Hooper benefited from. Rojo goes
in the 7th. Yep. We've seen him go as early as the 5th. His ADP might have the biggest variance of any guy in the top 10 rounds right now, because you'll see him slide here and sometimes he'll go early 5th. It's crazy.
It seems that the zero running back supporters are the biggest fans of Ronald Jones.
Yeah, and because he is one of the kind of clear, guys that once you scoop up all your wide receivers and tight ends and you're looking for someone who has that upside to take over a backfield, he's definitely there. And I would have liked him in certain situations, but I think the upside of Dobbins here, and the thing I love about taking 2 cracks at it here is, Akers and Dobbins, I could see one of them, and, we might not hit on both, but if we can get a top 8 running back out of one of them, we'll be very happy.
Totally. And both on really good offenses. So it'll be really fun to see. I mean, great prospects going to good offenses. It will be fun to see what they do in year one.
Yeah. And so now, I think we're probably going to be able to chill on running back for a couple of picks here. And we have some options, like you said. Let me get clear Dobbins out of here. There is some tight ends on the board. You mentioned Hunter Henry. That would be nice value in the 8th. Mm-hmm. We still got Kirk. Some interesting wide receivers here. Who just goes? Kirk does go.
There we go.
The Blair Andrews has me pretty hyped on Hardman. Where are you at on kind of wide receivers in this tier?
I really like that Hardman article. I also kind of like Mike Williams. It seems like we're looking ahead of ADP though. N'Keal Harry, I also am a big fan of. Obviously, that's a long way away. If you sort by ADP for wide receivers, who are the guys that are coming up? Because I know Sean is very unique with his rankings.
Yeah, sorry, I can't fully sort by it. So people are still drafting Devo. Yeah, John Brown is up there. Then you get into like the Judy.
I really like Preston Williams. I don't know where you stand on him. Yeah, not that I would take him here, but he's another one of those guys. And this is why we like to hit our wide receivers early. Is I think at this point in the draft there is a bit of a drop off.
Yeah.
But I like Preston Williams. I like N'Keal Harry in the really late rounds. Paris Campbell. I think that people watch somebody go through an injury-plagued rookie season where maybe they struggled and they write them off when we're used to seeing that year 2 jump. Where somebody like Chark broke out. I know Brandon Marshall broke out in year 2, Mike Wallace. There's a lot of guys who go from not producing in year 1 to having big second-year breakouts. So that's one of the reasons that I like N'Keal Harry and Paris Campbell. The rest of their profiles are very good.
Yeah. And, the other thing I like about kind of mixing up again, I'm doing a lot of these, championship teams is, I love zero RB. I think it's the way, the truth, and the life, etc. But it's also nice to vary the texture in the pockets of players you're drafting. So by drafting Akers and Dobbins here, whereas I'm normally hammering the Zach Moss, Antonio Gibson, we kind of almost flip that. And now we're getting exposure to, Mike Williams and Hardman and guys you generally have to pass up, Preston Williams, because you're hammering running back in that spot. So I like mixing it up a little bit there with your portfolio.
Yeah, and I think that best ball is the best place to draft Hardman. I know that's said all the time, and I don't love that. Oh, there we go, low G. Okay. But Hardman, one injury and the sky's the limit for Hardman.
I know it is. It could really. He could explode. He did go here. So Kirk, Hardman. Oops, we are on the clock here. Let me check in. Is Hunter Henry just a screaming value for in the 8th here?
Yeah, I really like Hunter Henry. Since he stepped on an NFL field, the guy has dominated. And maybe he benefits from a change at quarterback. And maybe he'll actually be healthy this year and we can see that he is the baby Gronk. Yeah, so I'm all in favor of it.
Yeah, I say we do Henry. The only reason I haven't been drafting Henry again is because I've been kind of grabbing the Hawkinson, Gesicki, Fant tier, but I do like Henry. I took him in Scott Fishbowl. The other thing with this build is I think we could probably be done drafting tight end after Andrews and Henry.
Is there anything at quarterback that we should look at quickly?
So it's starting. We're in a new tier because Wentz and Watson just went. So
let's go with Hunter Henry.
Yeah, let's get him before I time out here. So let's check in on the structure of this team now. If I can get my mouse to work. So we have, this is it. I was looking for a quarterback. So we have Leonard Fournette, Akers, Dobbins, 3 running backs. We have 3 wide receivers, Thomas, Godwin, and McLaurin, 2 tight ends, Andrews and Henry. So we're definitely good at tight end. And, I think we're even good for a few picks at running back. So it's really starting to think, do we look for an upside quarterback in this range? Otherwise, we should probably start hammering some more wide receivers.
Yeah, I think quarterback and wide receiver are interesting. If a guy like Josh Allen makes it back to us, maybe that's somebody to think about. And then I think that it will line us up perfectly to draft the N'Keal Harrys of the world, those later round wide receivers that we like.
Yeah. Also, someone in the chat rightfully is shaming Eric. He had the chance to add Hardman to his Chiefs super stack, and he takes Sterling Shepard. Eric.
Oh,
you've been canceled, Eric. Let's see. Carpentier says this might be my favorite of one of your drafts. Well done to both of you. Not full on zero RB. Yeah, Carpentier. He's a Matthew Kelly robust RB guy. So he needed to see some running backs on this team.
Yeah, I think an important part of zero running back is being able to change based on the draft board. If everybody's taking wide receivers, you don't just take a wide receiver. In this draft, everybody was taking running backs to start. We took wide receivers, and then as everybody shifted to wide receiver, we grabbed the value elsewhere.
Yep. Yeah. No, I just haven't been wanting to reach for these guys. So when you give us kind of a full round of value on Fournette and Dobbins, I'm happy to take that. And it gives us, like I said, it gives me a new build aside from what I'm used to here.
And these are all good prices to get exposure for these guys. So that's great. And then there's definitely some quarterbacks left on the board.
So you mentioned Josh Allen slipping. I think that would definitely be a good option. How do you feel, though, about Drew Brees, more so in the context of stacking him with Thomas? We also have Brady as a stack option with Godwin.
Yeah, I think that Allen may have more upside, but I do like the Brees stack. And I think Brady, we could probably wait a little bit, but it looks like Josh Allen's ADP is 69 and our pick's at 102. So if there's a spot to get Allen, it's probably with a 30-pick discount.
Yeah, for sure. And this draft is very wide receiver heavy. I haven't seen as many of these drafts go this wide receiver heavy. And it's forcing us into a slightly different construction that we might have done otherwise, but I do not hate it at all.
Yeah. Do the guys before us have quarterbacks?
No.
They don't. This guy does. So the next 2 don't.
The next 2 don't here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Holovid's calling a shot. He's saying he's taken Damien Williams there, which in the 9th.
Isn't Damien Williams gone?
Oh,
I think Damien Williams went in the 5th.
Okay, he's long gone. Let's
Who's
see.
taking Chenault in round 9? Did we miss that?
Yeah, someone called their shot. They better. I forget who it was, but they better. Oh, I think it was Dizid. He better hold true to his word.
Yeah, Dizzy, come on. We're holding you accountable here.
Oh man. Let's think about some other options here. Backup plan.
I'm usually hammering running backs here with like Brady, Darrell Henderson. It's so strange to have too many running backs right now. I don't think I've ever had a 3-3 wide receiver running back build with 2 tight ends at this point in the draft, but it is good practice. Okay, Gronk, CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, this is what they're talking about. Damien just opted out for 2020.
Oh, wow. We should have taken CEH in the 3rd.
Holy cow.
Wow. Is CEH going to go in the 1st round now? Probably.
And also, this makes DeAndre Washington very interesting as a late target.
Totally. That is interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
We're just going to see these dominoes fall in the coming weeks.
Just so you guys in the draft, I will try to pull this over to here so we can quickly confirm from Field Yates here. Chiefs running back Damien Williams has opted out for the 2020 season. The fantasy guys have already slid into the mentions. Clyde draft stock. Wow. Yep. So, we got some work to do here. Okay, Josh Allen falls to us. I think
this is a nice spot to take him.
Look at this. It's funny because we started this show saying how Zero RB pushes back against the idea of value-based drafting. And here we are just scooping value left and right.
You got it. We're not just going to take a wide receiver because everyone is. So we'll have a little fun and go with some off positions and mention some other guys that we like.
Yeah. This is a really interesting thing for just fantasy drafts going forward because Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, I have to imagine he slots in right there with Miles Sanders and Kenyon Drake at the back end of the 1st round.
Yeah, I think he's definitely in that tier. He's going to go ahead of the Josh Jacobs and probably Ecklers of the world. And I think that with the workload that we can expect from him, he may have a ton of upside in that offense, not only with goal line touchdowns, but with his receiving upside.
Yeah. Yep. That is very interesting. He had been a guy that I was kind of scooping up in the mid-3rd and stuff, but he is not going to be there for much longer.
Yeah, he's jumping. I think he's going to be a top 15 pick in almost every draft at this point.
And I wouldn't even be surprised, some of in these kind of big FBG and main event contests, these guys will be very aggressive with their running back. I would not be shocked to see him as a top 5 or 6 pick in some drafts, honestly.
Yeah, and I wonder if you can make an argument in those main event type drafts that it's advantageous to draft early because you may be able to get a huge discount on a guy that opts out. Yes.
Let's see the team here that got to start Devontae Adams, George Kittle, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. That starts looking a little nicer than it did even at the start there. So nice work there getting Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. You probably got a 2-round discount on him. And then you went and ruined it by drafting Gurley, but it's all right. Just kidding.
And followed by Mostert and AJ Green. I love AJ Green. I just can't imagine AJ Green coming back as the same player that we're used to seeing. Yeah. It takes a leap of faith on my part, and I would rather be drafting these ascending wide receivers rather than descending wide receivers.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. And again, it's kind of the same thing with the Cooper Kupp thing for me is like I definitely see the path, but it's just like there's so many good options that I think have less concern and have a little more meat on the bone, so to speak, to really break out.
I think that's fair. I mean, even in this draft, like Lockett in the 4th, Lockett's been so good. I don't know if people realize how efficient he is, and maybe the Seahawks can open it up. And then the young guys with Metcalf, Ridley obviously goes in that range. Woods may be a little bit safer than Kupp. So, and Chark I love. Yeah. So there's a lot of guys there.
I know. Yeah. Chark is still such a nice price point there. Him and Sutton and Metcalf. I really love that range of picks there. Diggs, McLaurin. It's weird how that there is that pocket now in the 4th sometimes where I don't mind going running back, and I've done it now a couple times going Carson, or we just did Fournette, because there's this weird kind of mini tier break, and then I just love those guys there.
Yeah, it's really nice when you can start in the top 5, start with your running back, and then hammer all those wide receivers. Because I do think there's a bit of a drop-off after Diggs and McLaurin go. Yeah. But you can grab so many ballers there with Sutton and McLaurin. And I don't know how I feel about Keenan Allen this year. I don't know that anybody's going to target him as much as Rivers does. But there's so many young future superstars there. And Chark is another one of those guys that seemingly has no target limit on a team that needs people to throw to. Maybe Chenault takes some targets away, but he's the alpha dog there.
Yeah, I do want to check back here. Drizzt said, I'm taking Chenault in the 9th. That would appear to have been fake news. He took Drew Brees there. The one thing that was a bummer when we took Josh Allen, I was hoping Mike Williams would come back to us in the 10th, but in this wide receiver heavy draft, it's just not happening here.
Let's look at the wide receiver board right now and discuss some guys that we like. I obviously like N'Keal Harry and Preston Williams. Are there any other guys on your radar?
So I have been, I do like Rager.
Another good one.
Good amount. But yeah, I have been gravitating toward Harry, and I also like Preston Williams. Based on ADP, it would seem that Preston would be the guy we should lock up.
Yes. What pick will it be? 115? Are there
one other
consideration? Yeah, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say one other consideration is someone in the chat reminded me of this. Because we do have Josh Allen, John Brown would also be a falling value here. He's 95 ADP, and we're picking at 115. I don't know if he's someone that you like in the context of the stack.
Yeah, the stack helps, and that would be the reason that I draft him. I'm not really a John Brown guy, but obviously his price is good and the stack is good. And there he goes. So we don't have to worry about that.
There we go. Zach Moss goes. Nice pick there at 112. Yeah, so go ahead.
What are the running backs available?
Yeah, let's just see. Keyshawn Vaughn, what a slip. Rager goes, man, this draft is so wide or running back heavy or wide receiver heavy.
I'm debating because I think that one of Preston Williams and N'Keal Harry are making it back to us. So do we take a running back because we like the guys in this range that probably won't make it back to us, like a Keyshawn Vaughn? Or do we just hammer wide receiver because we're concerned about what could be left if people continue to draft wide receiver heavy?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I would say if we draft Vaughn, I mean, we're really not drafting a running back then for a while. I'm legitimately worried about, I don't think Preston Williams will come back. I think there's a chance Harry would.
Let's take Preston. Let's take Preston.
Yeah.
I really like Preston. I mean, he was leading that team in targets prior to getting injured. And I think people don't like him because of his draft position. Obviously, that was due to character concerns. And then if you look at his college production, the guy was really good when he was on the field, but he had some issues that kept him off the field. So a second-year leap for him, I think, could be really nice. And I think there's some recency bias involved based on where he's going because he only played the first half of the season.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I honestly, I think normally I would just say, hey, let's just keep the train rolling and scoop the value. But I think, I know you and me, we still want that wide receiver firepower. Yeah. And it's getting a little thin to the point I don't think we can just fully play chicken with it.
Totally. And we may have taken Preston Williams in front of his ADP, but I still don't think it's a bad spot to get him considering his profile.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe the Damien Williams news. That's crazy.
I know. I'm still kind of stunned. Twitter is going crazy about it. Hayden Winks from Roto World says he has Clyde Edwards-Hilaire up there with Alvin Kamara and his running back rank. So people are getting incredibly aggressive with this.
Yeah. I mean, maybe somebody gets some Darwin Thompson love restarted, but yeah, I think it's going to be CEH in the middle of the first from now on.
Yeah, Eric Belair is giving himself the head pounding after drafting Damien in the 5th. Oh man, I'm sorry, Eric. We appreciate your $5.50 donation to the Drafters Best Ball Championship. No, you should be fine. Someone said should have gone Ayuk over Williams. I mean, Ayuk's a good pick, but Mike Williams is a really nice pick too. I don't have problems with either of those guys. Oh, or is he talking about?
He's talking about Preston Williams.
Yeah, Preston.
I think that Ayuk has a nice profile. I don't know that he's going to be able to receive as many targets as Preston Williams. I think that's the issue, and I think we like targeting wide receivers who are going into that second year and should see a leap in production, when rookie year wide receivers, I think, are going to be a little bit more difficult to hit on.
Yeah. Yep. I do as well. I think there's, the real thing that's interesting to me about the Dolphins is I think one of Preston Williams or Gesicki is a really nice value. It's just hard for me to know which one it is, because I think whichever one of those guys kind of locks down that number 2 target share role behind Parker is going to have a really nice season.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I do think that it's going to be one of them, but perhaps there's a share the wealth type of thing where they all benefit and see increased efficiency from playing together.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we looking at? I know we have N'Keal Harry in our back pocket.
Let's see. We got N'Keal Harry. I mean, Keyshawn Vaughn's still on the board. And see, this is the only thing that trips me up about the Hunter Henry pick is like Hawkinson still being here.
Totally.
Is a pretty nice value. But again, we got Henry at a value too.
Yeah, and even Jared Cook is a nice value. Phillip Lindsay is a nice value. Henderson, I love. Obviously you have to take Keyshawn Vaughn with the running backs that are on the board.
Yeah, I think we got some good options here. In this format, you can only start one tight end or a second tight end in the flex, but there's no room to start a third tight end. Otherwise, I would say you could, think about, even going with Hawkinson. But just in this format, I think we're probably good there. Let's see what's going on here. Alexander Madison, Latavius Murray. We can check in on quarterbacks. The other thing too, Mike, is Tom Brady, ADP 78.5. Yeah. We're here at 126 and have Godwin. I mean, that's also not too bad either.
No, not at all. The only issue for me is I don't know that he's going to outscore a Jared Goff by that much. Goff has McVay and will probably be available much later. So I don't know that there's a reason to rush with that one, but obviously the stack is nice.
Yeah.
And Jameis was so good with the Bucs last year. Like, you have to think Brady can step in and do great things, but obviously there's the concern of COVID and not being able to work with the team and a new offense potentially. So
let's see here. I'm going to slide over for you guys the Evan Silva take on the news here, if I can get my browser to work. Clyde Hilaire, obvious beneficiary, but DeAndre Washington becomes a worthwhile late round flyer with plus versatility. Was also prioritized by Chiefs after spending last 4 years with the division rival. I like that take a lot because they had Darrell Henderson and Darwin last year, and they had games where they needed both of those guys, and it seemed like they did not trust them.
Yeah, I think DeAndre Washington is pretty undervalued. I don't think people recognize him as somebody that when Josh Jacobs was out, he had some productive games. He kind of has a profile where he can do a little bit of everything. So on the Chiefs, it's important to have that pass catching prowess to your profile.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting too, whereas like who's the goal line back now on, does Clyde Edwards-Helaire, maybe he has the build to be able to just be the full workhorse.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I know Darrell Williams is a little bit bigger. Maybe they put him in as a goal line back, but usually the Chiefs stick to one or two running backs. So it'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, now people are floating if Devonta Freeman becomes a logical landing spot for that. That would really throw a wrench in everyone's plans. Okay, Keyshawn Vaughn falls to us in the 11th. We have to do it, right?
We got to do it. I don't love it, but we got to do it.
No, this is why. Vaughn has been placed on the Buccaneers reserve COVID list, but does that mean anything?
I don't know that it matters when he has this much time before the season. Maybe it's good that he gets the COVID out of the way, unless there's other strains that are going to become involved.
So that's the reason people weren't taking him, is because the red R in the applet was next to his name, scaring people away. But yeah, no, it's not like he hasn't opted out. He's just on their reserve COVID list.
Yeah, I wonder if he has symptoms, if anybody's even reported on that. Does it matter if they have symptoms? Maybe they're out longer if they have some sort of respiratory issue.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a very interesting message.
Yeah. The Scarlet Letter. I just had to make sure that we didn't have a Damien Williams situation, and the chat just was like, watch this, guys. They're going to grab Keyshawn Vaughn. They don't know that he just opted out.
Yes.
But yeah, the thing too with a lot of these younger guys, and you'll see it too, is, obviously with their rookie contracts. And one thing I didn't know until talking to Laird about this is their pension vests after 3 years of play. And so Laird really wants to make sure that his pension vests, and he can do that with obviously 2 more years under his belt. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of these, first 3-year guys opting out as much. And that's kind of what we've seen, right? With Damien Williams, Funchess, some of these older vets are the ones who it makes more sense for them.
Yeah, and I think that not only do you mention the pension, but I think in addition, they've made some money. They feel financially secure. And in order to not endanger their family or run into any issues, they're able financially to step away from the game for a year. I don't know that the younger guys are able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. That is the other common through line of these guys having the young families as well. Let's see here. I know you and I have a target here that we are hoping falls to us. Let's check in on quarterback. Definitely some good options here. I'm seeing if there's any other stack angles. We obviously lost Brady. You mentioned Goff. I mean, Goff
and I like Roethlisberger too, and Tannehill when he goes late, and Jones has obviously got as many weapons as anybody. So there's definitely some interesting guys there.
Yeah. Yep. John says, I thought the R was for rookie. Hey, I mean, that's better than thinking it means he was out for the season or something. Isn't it funny how that psychology works? I know that happens in the daily fantasy sites too. Even just like the questionable tag next to them can help lower ownership because people just don't like the cognitive dissonance of I'm putting money on this guy whose status is up in the air.
Yeah, there's like a subconscious impact that you don't even realize. You just want to shy away from the red icon.
Yeah, it is funny how that works. So yeah, we're over the halfway point. We're about to make our 12th round pick. I think we're in really good shape here. This is the best I normally look at running back through this many rounds.
I get it. Me too. They opened up some opportunities for us. These kind drafters that we're participating with.
And the thing I keep talking about is these rookie running backs, their ADPs, all they do is go up, especially, I know we're not having preseason this year, but generally once we start to get camp reports, once they say, oh, Cam Akers is running with the ones, and it's like, well, duh, but that news will impact the ADPs. And I think you feel similarly right now too, is when you're doing these drafts, it's just like the rookie running backs are the best values over and over and over.
Exactly. They fall and they do have that workhorse upside. So why reach for a running back when you know that these rookies are going to be available later? Lazard, that's another guy that I really like. Yeah. I think Lazard is pretty undervalued. People don't realize that his profile was really good because he was out of the league or he switched teams and couldn't get on the field. But I know A-Rod likes him, and the guy's kind of a freak.
Yeah, and I was just going to check his ADP. Yeah, so he's jumped big time because ever since I guess it's just because of the Funchess news, which I don't think
Funchess isn't good. Yeah, I had Lazard way ahead of him before that, so I don't know that helps us, but at least people are appreciating the Lazard King.
I want to say the first draft I did on drafters this offseason.
Oh,
God damn it!
How dare you?
I knew that was going to happen. I was about to say Lazard. Classic. Okay, we gotta regroup here because you and I were both thinking the same thing there.
Okay, let's see what we got.
I mean, I don't mind Ruggs. I know Amico's pretty high on Ruggs here. Ayuk though is also here.
Yeah, it seems that we could wait a little bit with him. Can you scroll down and see if there's anybody else with?
We got Shenault.
James Washington I like later, but not yet. So yeah, I think Ruggs would probably be my top guy.
Yeah, there's nothing at tight end. Let's just check quarterback real quick. I think we can wait on quarterback. Should we, based on ADP, I think Ruggs is probably the play here.
Yeah, let's do Ruggs.
This is, again, continuing my trend in this draft of kind of getting some shares to rookies that I don't have exposure to. I've just been drafting Ayuk and Shenault and Rager over Ruggs, but in the context of this board, I don't mind him here at all.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm generally avoiding these rookie wide receivers, but Ruggs is kind of the guy that seems to have high target potential. So maybe he is the one that could break out as a rookie. Generally, I want to target those year 2 wide receivers. And maybe a James Washington seems to have the profile of somebody who could break out late.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the thing that I think is interesting about Ruggs, and I've been guilty about this too, is pigeonholing myself into this. He's the best ball, deep threat. Derek Carr isn't going to be able to connect with him. But when you look at the draft capital and you look at his speed and the way the team's talking about him, they seem like they want to make him their wide receiver one that they use in all facets. And of course, you can question whether he has the profile to succeed in all those ways, but it seems like he's going to get the opportunity.
Yeah, he has a very unique profile in that not only does he have that speed, but his leaping ability is like 98th percentile. And then he has like 97th percentile hand size at like 188 pounds. Yeah. I know Blair Andrews wrote an article about that, so you probably know. But it's a very unique profile that could be really successful in the NFL.
Yeah, we got your guy over at Apex, Dalton, asking how the draft is going here. Why don't you give him a quick rundown overview on our draft so far?
Dalton, you're going to be upset with us because we didn't go true zero running back. The draft broke in a way that everybody hammered wide receiver. We went with the rookie running backs, and there weren't a lot of value options. So we have grabbed Preston Williams and Ruggs and some guys that we're not as big on in terms of Keyshawn Vaughn. And we've grabbed some really good value picks and Fournette that you're probably going to shake your head at.
Yeah, the Fournette one, it's like you're looking at this board and you're like, wait, but it's like in the fourth round. I mean, he's just never there in the fourth round. All right, looks like we're getting a little quarterback run here. We go Burrow, Cam, Goff, Roethlisberger. Definitely something to look at. Dalton likes the team. He says this is the best squad the show has ever had. He's completely unbiased. Let's figure out what we want to do here. Get yourself in a little trouble because it's like all the names I always like are the rookie wide receivers. I mean, are there any second quarterbacks you'd want to consider here if there's a quarterback run going along?
I like Tannehill probably the most, and then Jimmy G as they're ranked here. I think we could go either one. Do we want to look at the right side of the draft and see the odds of somebody taking quarterbacks before they make it back to us?
So there's three teams on this side that have two quarterbacks. Eric and J Bruck only have one, and D Nice has one. So I would say at most three would go. Okay. Oh, and then Cousins goes. So it is a bit of a running back or a wide receiver, or God, I can't talk, quarterback run here. Who would be the guy if we didn't go quarterback?
That's the question. Let's see is it mainly wide receiver that we want to look at right now? We got 4, 5, 2. We're probably not going for a tight end at this point. What is Paris Campbell's ADP?
Paris Campbell, good question.
He's probably later than this.
He's 174, and we are at pick 150.
Yeah, we got some time on him. Maybe we take a quarterback, and then we can hit those wide receivers that we like, the James Washingtons and the Paris Campbells.
Yeah. The one thing, if you like, do you prefer Tannehill to Garoppolo?
I would envision them in the same tier.
So the only thing about Garoppolo is it could open us up if we want to grab Ayuk as a potential little stack, if that's a tiebreaker.
Okay, we can go that way if you want to.
Yeah, why don't we try that? I'm sure someone will snake us, but we can keep our options open there.
Yeah, their defense isn't going to be as good. So I think that they open things up a little bit more, and Garoppolo is a little bit better than last year. Ayuk should help. Obviously, losing Debo hurts.
I'm sorry, John. We ruined your stack. People have ruined ours. You had it coming.
Is this the guy that took N'Keal Harry from us?
Let's see. John, did you take N'Keal from us? It might have been. It might have been. Yeah, so we're just getting you back. We were talking about this earlier. Are you reaching for a Chiefs backup RB now that Dame is out? I mean, based on this draft, Mike and I aren't reaching for anyone. But we were talking about it earlier, and we do both like DeAndre Washington as a flyer now. What do you think his ADP should be going forward, DeAndre Washington?
I think he should probably be drafted at this point in the draft, like before here. I don't see why he doesn't slide in with like Madison or somebody like that. If CEH got hurt, obviously like a Dalvin Cook scenario, we could see a huge season from DeAndre Washington. So I would slide him in with kind of the elite handcuffs right after the guys who are in timeshares.
Yeah. Why we have a second here too. I want to let people know about Apex leagues, because you guys have a cool format over there. It's actually very zero RB friendly relative to some other formats. Let people know what they can expect if they play over at Apex.
Yeah, so we basically wanted to take the luck out of fantasy as much as possible. And we thought ways that we could do that is not only playing one game a week against a random person, which happens in every fantasy league, you also play against the league average. So in a full season, you'll have 26 games, 2 each week for 13 weeks before the playoffs. And that way, we think the standings more accurately depict the best teams. So we have that going. We have blind bidding waivers. We have deeper starting lineups that start 3 wide receivers, a flex, 2 running backs, quarterback, tight end, kicker, defense. So we give you opportunity to zero running back draft. We give you an opportunity to not be impacted by luck as frequently. And then we do other things like we enhance league. So if we're struggling to fill a league, we will throw some additional money in the pot to first place to encourage more people to join. So if you're looking for somewhere to play fantasy football, Apex is a great place to do so.
Yeah, and I love that wrinkle. I've done it even with some of my home leagues, the playing multiple opponents. I haven't added the league average, but I love that as well too. There's nothing worse than losing by a half a point and then seeing that you would have beat every other team in the league.
Yeah, when you see somebody has the most points scored and they don't even make the playoffs in the league, it's like, what's going on here? We need to do something about this. So at Apex, we do something about that.
Yeah, no, definitely a smart league format change. Let's see here in the 14th, Ayuk does go. So there goes my hopes for a stack there.
Yeah.
We got my guy Shenault is still available. Quarterbacks have been flying off the shelves here. Tannehill does go. Based on this build, I think we're still probably wide receiver.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that Shenault, Paris Campbell, and James Washington in no specific order are the guys that I like. I think all of them. Washington, averaged the most yards per target for the Steelers last year, and he has that heavy profile. He has college production. Shenault, I think, can easily slide in as the number 2. And Paris Campbell is a guy that was drafted in the 2nd round, outperformed Terry McLaurin in college. And after one injury-plagued season, even though he was drafted ahead of Metcalf, right around A.J. Brown, a really good draft class, I think that everybody's writing off Paris Campbell too early.
What do you think? Shenault, I'll just give you a little context. Shenault has become the poster boy of this show, and the chat always loves it when we draft Shenault. I hate to lead you into this, but I'm just letting you know.
Okay, if you want to take Shenault because it's on brand, I'm all for it. Is he going to be around for our next pick? Because it looks like his ADP is 187. Okay, Dalton. We'll go with Dalton. I see Pete puts this up right as I'm trying to talk about it. Let's do it. I love Shenault.
The thing is normally I would agree with you, but I have to this draft has me spooked right now too with how fast the wide receivers are going off the board. Yes, Eric, the dance party has started. Hang on, I'm just going to give him a few seconds of music. This is from my other show. Just one sec here. All right, there we go. Little Shenault music. Everyone's excited. Dance party. There we go. This all started. I did a show with TJ Hernandez, a month or so ago. And I said that I love Shenault, but I had literally never seen him play football. And so we pulled up some of his highlights on the stream. And I was like, I love this guy even more. Just watching him shed tackles at University of Colorado.
He's Marshawn Lynch as a wide receiver. The guy is just a beast. There goes Paris Campbell. Somebody was listening to us.
I'm telling you, we needed to lock him up there. The other thing I will say, yes, 3rd week in a row.
It's a good dance party. Love that.
The one thing too I will say is, again, I know you mentioned that you've kind of been avoiding these, rookie wide receivers, and I think there's definite merit to not being overexposed to them. That said, with this build, in the fact, in the zero RB builds, you can get behind at running back really quickly. I feel like with our investment in Fournette, Akers, Dobbins, and Vaughn, that we're going to have enough production early that we don't get buried, and that we can kind of, we can suffer the blow of a few weeks of Ruggs and Shenault getting caught up to speed. I don't know. That's just kind of the way I'm thinking about it.
No, I don't disagree with you. And I think that we took kind of high upside rookie wide receivers, which I like. And we didn't spend like a huge price tag on them, like you would have to for a CeeDee Lamb. And like, I think CeeDee Lamb's the best rookie wide receiver, and I think he has the highest upside this year. But the investment, often good players going around him, it looks like it was a pretty good price in this draft, although I very much like Slayton. So yeah, I'm happy to take shots on those type of rookie wide receivers.
Yeah. Yep. We're still checking in on the fantasy football cognoscenti weighing in. Mike Clay says Edwards-Hilaire is walking into a very similar situation to Kareem Hunt back in 2017. Hunt was expected to share with Spencer Ware, who then landed on IR. Hunt then averaged 18 carries, 4 targets a game, and was the FF fantasy football RB4. Oh, and that was pre-Mahomes. I mean, the Edwards-Hilaire hype it's going to the moon right now.
Yeah. And I think he's 100% right. The only difference is the average draft position for Hunt, I think, was in the 4th round we were getting him. And now, obviously, the price for CEH is going to be much higher. And then whatever you believe on the COVID thing, whether you think it's negligible or you think it's important, and also maybe his best competition in DeAndre Washington is also coming from another team. So maybe it puts them kind of in even position going into the season.
Yep. No, I agree. Okay, so we are heading here into the 15th. We have a pretty balanced roster right now. Again, I think we can pick our target. We don't have to be hunting for a specific position. I'll scroll through some names here. Let me know if anything jumps out to you. I know you had mentioned James Washington earlier.
James Washington I like, and also maybe the other Washington. Maybe DeAndre Washington becomes a good running back to take in the 15th round with this news.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Like you said, I think he should have probably already be gone at this point. I mean, someone took Darwin Thompson ahead of him. Yeah, I think at this price here, I like it.
Yeah,
I think that makes a ton of sense here in the 15th.
Let's do it. I mean, even if you get a few weeks out of him because of a positive COVID test or something, these are the kind of guys on that offense that you want to target.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of doing a live stream when the news breaks if you can't take advantage of the news just this one time? I mean, his ADP is probably going to settle into the 12th, 13th round, I think.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
All right, we add DeAndre Washington, getting our first exposure to the Chiefs offense, which is never a bad thing. Starting with, Garoppolo and Josh Allen, I definitely think we could look to a third QB later. One of the nice things is some of these quarterbacks that are available late, we have stack candidates with all of them. We have Haskins with McLaurin. We have Tua Fitzpatrick with Preston Williams. We have Tyrod with Hunter Henry. So I kind of like those options for a third quarterback.
Yeah, and even Carr with Ruggs. And Carr, I mean, I don't know if Carr is a lot more likely to start the whole season. I guess they did sign Mariota. But a lot of those guys have concerns for only playing part of the season. Haskins, I guess, is probably the best bet to play the whole year.
Yeah, I mean, Haskins has been essentially free in all of these drafts. You're not going out of your way to draft him in managed leagues, but as your third quarterback here, especially when you draft McLaurin, I mean, if McLaurin smashes ADP, Haskins is going to have a great year.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, I mean, his pass catchers aren't great, so I think that's a valid argument. But Haskins is kind of underrated. He had some games last year where he looked pretty good, and rookie quarterbacks never produce. So the expectations for him shouldn't be high, and we shouldn't be reacting to him facing some struggles as a rookie.
Yeah. I mean, we cut a lot of these guys slack in their rookie year. He didn't get all of the reps. He didn't play until what? When did he finally get his start? It was pretty deep into the season, right?
Yeah, I think it was past week 8, week 9. I can't remember exactly. Was there somebody who played in between him and Case Keenum?
That's a good question. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But let's see here. So, wide receiver is getting pretty gross.
Yeah.
Are there any other? James Washington just goes. So that's one of our last targets there, which is unfortunate. So we are at 6 wide receivers. I think ideally in a build like this that we're at 7 or 8. Another stack candidate. I thought he just went. Jalen Hurd. I've seen a little excitement him? What do you think about him with Jimmy?
I think he's got an unbelievably unique profile, and I don't even know if he counts as a second-year guy because he didn't really get reps all of the first year. And obviously they drafted Ayuk, so I think he is probably settling in the pecking order behind him. But Hurd was a guy that was really productive in college and has a profile that we like, and he's on a really good offense. The only issue for him is I don't see him having like a high target season. And I don't know if somebody like Corey Davis, maybe the Titans transition to passing a little bit more, and Corey Davis is undervalued as a top 5 pick. Andy Isabella, okay.
Yeah, someone in the chat asked if Isabella was there, so I was checking for him. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that Corey Davis has an interesting profile as well. I know Sean wrote about it in his 4th-year breakout article. And at this point with these wide receivers, there's nobody who's perfect, obviously.
Yeah. Are there any other guys here that you would consider? I mean, I can check on running backs, although this is a pretty gross tier as well.
Yeah, and it seems that we have 5. So if we're taking somebody gross, Lynn Bowden's there, but I don't think he's going anytime soon. Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to plug our nose with one of these wide receivers unless there's a tight end.
Let's see here. I mean, Everett's still there.
Yeah, Everett, Knox. I don't know if Disley is going to be healthy.
I think these wide receivers continue to go off the board and we need them. So I almost think we should just probably take a couple more dart throws at wide receiver here.
Who do you like? Give me your thoughts.
So I think I've been focusing more on stacking in these large field where, I'm trying to get that $10,000 prize up top. So I'm kind of always breaking ties in that. So I would be thinking about Hurd or, even Cole Beasley with Josh Allen, because we don't have a stack right now with Josh Allen. I don't know. I was just thinking Knox is also available, but I just don't know if we want to take a third tight end with this build.
I think we plug our nose and take a wide receiver, and I'm happy with your case for Hurd. I'd rather go Hurd with upside than Beasley, who's now the 3rd wide receiver on a run-heavy team.
Yeah. Yep. I'm happy to take a flyer there with Hurd. I mean, the medical reports on Debo seem a little all over the place. It seems like it could be a while until he's back up to speed. If Ayuk, isn't ready or takes a little bit to develop, I mean, it does seem like Hurd would be one of the big beneficiaries.
And maybe they give him some touches out of the backfield. It's not like Mostert is that good. I don't know if McKinnon's healthy. Tevin, I don't know what to think about anymore. So maybe they give Hurd some work out of the backfield as a wide receiver. And if he flashes, he could have a nice year.
Yep. So we have 4 more picks here. Based on our construction, I think we definitely should pick up a 3rd quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I think we should definitely get at least 1 more wide receiver. And that would still give us kind of 2 picks of flexibility to do what we want if we wanted to grab. I agree with you on Bowden. He's interesting to me and probably the last kind of impressive guy to draft. Anything else I'm missing here? This draft has been sharp. There's not a lot of values now.
Yeah, there really isn't. And the running backs get so gross at this point in the draft. So I guess you're mainly after Bowden type of guys, you're drafting the type of guys that need an injury or two, maybe like a Geo Bernard who could theoretically with a Mixon injury be very valuable for a few weeks or more.
Yeah, I think I definitely have. Just as I mentioned before, I've been gravitating so much to these rookie backs that I have been neglecting Geo when I do think he has a realistic path to, standalone value and some contingency value. I think the other thing that held me back is just, I know they still like Travion Williams and don't they have one other kind of bigger body back over there?
Yeah, I feel like they do. I'm going to look it up right now.
Yeah, I've heard Matt Kelly talk about him, so I'm just trying to remember. So, yeah, but it's kind of similar with McCaffrey too, right? Where I guess there's some uncertainty around who's the true handcuff. Whereas if you knew it, that guy would be getting drafted more if it's Bonifon or Mike Davis or whatever. It's just hard to pinpoint who has that contingency value. Derek Carpentier takes care of us. Rodney Anderson, that was the name I was thinking of.
Oh, there we go. Rodney Anderson.
So Haskins does go there. I think we could look at quarterback here because they are flying off the shelves.
This may be a good time to take Carr. I mean, he has improved with Gruden. He has the most weapons of his career. Definitely not a car guy, but if there's a spot for him, unless we think, I'm just concerned about Tua starting early. I would say Fitzmagic, but I think he's going to be replaced at some point. Tyrod, same thing with Herbert. So I think we get a lot of starts out of Carr. What do you think?
I love it. The other reason I love it is because of the Ruggs pick. So the Carr to Ruggs stack makes sense there too. Sweet. Yeah. So now we're good at quarterback. Oh, and the other thing that was really essential because Garoppolo and Allen had the same bye week. So it's nice to get another quarterback in there. Okay. This gives us a little bit more flexibility now to finish this out.
So the guys that I'd probably be looking at now are Corey Davis, because I think he's probably going to have the second most targets on the Titans. Sanu is kind of interesting to some extent, just because I don't know. I mean, I guess Jacoby Myers could play in front of him, but he should have some targets. Denzel Mims. Is Everett gone? Yeah, he went a few picks ago. Okay. I liked Everett. I agree with Matt Kelly on Everett. I think that he's I mean, it seems like McVay always wants to target him and get him involved.
Very nice. Yeah. I like Everett. My kind of stance has just been that him and Higbee's ADP should be closer. And that's not necessarily a knock on Higbee. It's just saying the market is overreacting to the second half of the season and kind of forgetting what the first half was like.
Recency bias. What do you think of Justin Jackson?
So the way I've been viewing that is to me, it feels like either one of Justin Jackson or Joshua Kelly is going to kind of take over that early down work that Melvin Gordon was enjoying, or it turns into a really gross three-way committee. I've been leaning Joshua Kelly, just the black box unknown of the rookie and what they have. Yeah. That said, I think you should be sprinkling in some shots on Justin Jackson just in case he has the inside track to that additional work alongside Eckler.
Yeah, I think that Justin Jackson has really popped when he's gotten to play. I remember they had a game against the Chiefs. I think it was a Thursday night game, and Keenan Allen got hurt. Mike Williams balled out, and Melvin Gordon and Eckler were out, I believe. And Justin Jackson had a really nice game, looked really good.
Yeah, for sure. I don't mind the Corey Davis call at all. I think he's one of those guys that is probably just some people just feel gross with these guys. It's like, you fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, fool me three times. And it's like, people are just out on these guys. But, Corey Davis still would have those flashes that he would show that he could still play. And I think at this price point, there's no opportunity cost.
Yeah, his efficiency was good last year. And I think that he benefits from having an alpha dog like A.J. Brown. There is PUP list concern, though.
Yeah. Yep. So that's what Harbs mentions here. Eric assures us he has Tannehill and I'm not drafting Corey. Who is it? Who's the third guy in that wide receiver crew? Is it
Sharp went to the Vikings?
Yeah.
So
it was the Humphreys. Is it? Is Adam Humphreys?
Yeah, I think he's still there. Maybe he's a cheap source of targets. Let me look up their depth chart. I think you're right. It's Humphreys.
It is one of those. That is one of those things that I've heard people mention, and I agree with it, of, in these large field best ball tournaments, you aren't going to get ownership advantages in the first 15 rounds. Every single player is going to be rostered. But in the back half, last year, the name that's been cited is DJ Chark was going undrafted in some of these leagues. And if you drafted DJ Chark, your win rates were through the roof. So it is interesting to think about who are some of those guys that just aren't even showing up in the draft applet, that if they, give you 5 or 6 weeks in a nice win rate, no one else is going to own them. I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, he wasn't an early declare, but one guy who I do think fits that box, who you were typing his name in, is Andy Isabella. Those second-year wide receivers tend to make a leap. And if there's anything that's predictable of players going from low scoring to high scoring, it's wide receivers from year 1 to 2, like Chark. Andy Isabella doesn't check all the boxes because he wasn't an early declare, but he's the guy with an injury to Christian Kirk. Maybe he pops more than Fitz and gets a lot of targets.
Yeah, I like Isabella. The other kind of names that they don't check all those boxes you mentioned, but for the second year guys, Miles Boykin and then JJ Arcega-Whiteside are kind of intriguing, could fit the kind of Chark mold a little bit.
And I like Arcega-Whiteside just because they need targets. He did average like 8 yards per target last year. Obviously, he didn't produce as we wanted him to, but I do think Arcega-Whiteside is interesting. He's heavy. He had good production at Stanford, so that's another guy to watch.
Yeah, so I did just notice that Isabella is gone. I must have missed that. Yeah, he went in the 16th. So
wow.
Arcega is there. Boykin is gone. What do you think about Arcega here?
I like Arcega. There was a name that I just saw. Traquan, I can't quit. Traquan Smith.
Yeah.
I think Emmanuel Sanders hurts there. But yeah, I'm happy to go with Arcega-Whiteside.
Yeah, let's give it a
shot.
Do
we want to look at any other positions, or are we sure we want a wide receiver?
Let's see. No. Let's check here. I mean, we're good at quarterback. Let's just check tight end. Come on, Peter. Yeah, so we had Corey Davis, Higgins, Disley, Rudolph, Penny, Olsen, Samuels. Geo was the other guy we had mentioned, although I kind of like the idea of taking a couple more wide receivers.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to go with Arcega-Whiteside.
Yeah, we'll kick the tires on him. I saw, Jeffrey's opening up on PUP. Again, you're kind of balancing like your rookie enthusiasm. If you draft Ruggs and, these guys, and then you pass on Rager, it's like, okay, maybe bet against Rager here with Whiteside and see if you can get those right pairings.
Exactly. We want to bet on those young guys who are still going to be improving. For those who are listening that didn't see Blair Andrews' article, the only predictable jump is for wide receivers. Jump in market share or raw targets is for wide receivers from year 1 to year 2, and basically it decreases from there. So you want to target those guys who we can predict a leap for, and JJ Arcega-Whiteside fits that mold
for sure. Yep. And again, these are historically picks that have an extremely low hit rate. So what we're trying to do is, if we do hit that 5%, that one outer on the river, we want to make sure that they have the upside to actually be significant. We're not just hunting for the, a few targets a game kind of role. We're trying to find that big breakout. And these are the type of profiles that traditionally can do that.
Totally. I'm intrigued by the McKinnon pick. It seems like, how is he still not healthy when he's missed 2 full seasons? Like, I've heard he's still not cutting, but obviously Shanahan was excited to use him. And I mean, maybe he's somebody that gets a role. Amendola, what we can guarantee a few targets for him is the 3rd pass catcher in that offense. Yeah. Or Hawkinson may render him useless, but I know that when Stafford was healthy, Amendola was a lot better. Yeah,
he was. Yeah, this is a pretty gross stretch here of the draft. This is also, but I wish I would be able to sort by ADP here, because it would be nice to see who other people have been drafting recently. If there's any other names that pop up to you that you want me to search for, just let me know.
Okay, I will. Sean, I love that he does it, but he's very outlandish with his rankings, and they don't necessarily go towards ADP. So I don't know that I would draft exactly towards his rankings. Just something to keep in mind. But
this is Sean, another guy I've been Burkhead a little bit with all of the uncertainty around Sony Michel.
Damien Harris, I'm sure he's gone by now. I just didn't see his name. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Harbs is calling a shot on Albert Wilson.
Okay.
We already have Preston. Did Albert Wilson go? No, he's still here. Albert Wilson is one of those guys who's, I think, just a good football player. I do, wonder about the upside there, especially, just behind Parker, behind Williams, behind Gesicki. But
maybe there are some COVID weeks where he's able to get more of a workload. I don't know that Braude or Jordan Howard have that pass catching profile. I like to think Braude does because of his athleticism, but in history, he hasn't received a lot of targets. So maybe an injury to Devontae Parker or Preston Williams or Mike Gesicki, and there's a lot of volume open there.
Yeah, and I love here just gave me an idea. In Bourne, did you read Sean's article about 4th-year breakouts?
Yes.
And
Bourne, I do think.
Oh, go ahead.
No. There is an opening on that depth chart. So yeah, I see it. He's been good in limited opportunities, and I mean, you never know with the 49ers receivers if they're just going to rotate. Everybody thought Pettis was heading into that year 2 breakout, but Bourne seems like the coach's pet type of guy.
Why don't we do it? Because we have Garoppolo, we took Hurd. Let's just bet again.
One of them.
Maybe one of them hits, and then we'll want some stack potential there. I like that pick in the context of this roster. We got one more pick. I think we can do pretty much whatever we want. We're up to 9 wide receivers, which is solid. We're going to go. We could grab a third tight end if we wanted to. Otherwise, I don't mind going kind of fragile with Andrews and Henry holding it down. We're obviously not going to draft another quarterback. I would say it's running back or tight end.
I think Disley is interesting. I don't know how healthy he is, but Disley's obviously been a really good player when he's on the field. And I don't know that he may be better than Greg Olsen at this point in Olsen's career. Olsen's obviously there too. Jermichael Hasty. There's another one we could go for.
Yep, just pushing all in on the stacks.
Are there any running backs that, like, with one injury would see a huge workload? Justice Hill, man.
This is kind of, this is a pretty, 184, we're picking at 235. There's got to be worse bets to make. Although we already have Dobbins, so I don't know if we want to play that card.
Yeah, exactly. No. I wasn't saying draft him. I was shaking my head because of my investment in him last year.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, me too. We got my guy Patrick Laird. We got Burkhead. There's Darrell Williams. Let's see here.
Yeah, Burkhead probably has the biggest projectable role.
Oh, Ito Smith.
Ito Smith. Yeah, Ito. I like.
Yeah, that's the other thing I can do is scroll down here and see if there's any other guys that have ADPs. A lot of zeros here. Yeah, we're really down here. Cameron Artis Payne of the.
I saw Deontay Foreman there. I was a big Deontay Foreman guy back in the day.
Really? Yeah, man. He was a big dude, right?
Yeah, he was 230 and ran a 4.4. He was a special guy. His production was really, really good. High draft capital, but just never worked out.
Look at the chat playing matchmaker. Harbs tosses out Albert Wilson. John follows his lead. This is what we are. We're matchmakers here.
Wow, Claypool is picked too. Look at that, and Brian Edwards. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Claypool is interesting. The thing too. I was listening to a podcast today. I think Drew Dinkmeyer was talking about the draft best ball championship last year, and Adrian Peterson was one of the difference makers. He did nothing for anyone during the beginning of the season, but then down the playoffs, he had a few of those really useful games. And the way that some of these, the tournaments work, although that structure is a little different because it's a playoff structure versus just the cumulative, but some of these guys, all they need is 2 or 3 big games and they can have a nice win rate at this ADP.
Exactly. Yeah, especially for zero running back teams. Not that our team necessarily fits that mold, but when you have a zero running back team, anybody who can come and pitch in a few games is huge.
For sure. Yeah. And, Claypool, I know Sean has been interested in Claypool and Hamler and some of those guys. It's just really late dart throws.
Hamler, I like.
Yeah.
Hamler's if there wasn't such a good rookie class, people would be comparing him to Deshaun Jackson. But because there's all these ballers and there's so many guys, he kind of gets forgotten. Going at the end or mid-third round of rookie drafts, I think he's kind of underappreciated.
Yeah, Hamler would have been, like you said, he would have been that John Ross, Philip Dorsett who went in the first round if it wasn't for this class.
Exactly. And that's another reason to target this class is there's a lot of guys who could, just like last year's rookie wide receivers, that could come in and make a real difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And dynasty guys were not excited to draft Hamler for some reason. I think, they see his profile, they see the quarterback, they see Sutton and, all those other guys ahead of him. But I don't know, especially with dynasty, it's just good players earn targets and he might be really, really good.
And if Drew Lock isn't good, then maybe they'll get somebody else who's really good after. So we're not sure that KJ Hamler is going to have Drew Lock for a long time. If Drew Lock proves himself and plays well, then good, Hamler has a quarterback. If not, then you're going to get a new quarterback who could be really good and help Hamler be a really good player.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we got one more pick here until we were on the clock. I mean, I think at this price point, Ito's a pretty no-brainer, zero running back guy.
Yeah, who do they still have? Brian Hill? Like,
they do.
On the team still? And then what, they have a Zegbo, or who's their fourth?
Oh, it's Quadre Olison, I believe.
Quadre Olison, that's what it is, correct.
Yeah. And, my buddy Hassan Rahim, he was sending me over some splits saying that, Ito was even starting to carve out a bigger role in that backfield last year before he got hurt. And, Gurley is no sure thing. So I think Ito is a nice flyer here, and we will happily scoop him up here.
And to get the best of the bunch of those remaining running backs on Atlanta is great. Great value in the 20th round.
All right, I'm going to try to get this screen a little bigger so we can see our full roster here. I'll have you give the final take, and then we will sign off here. This was a super fun draft. I think you and I probably came in thinking this would go a little differently, and we kind of changed our strategy up on the fly.
Yeah, I think that it went well. We grabbed a lot of value. It's not necessarily guys that I'm used to drafting. The first three picks are. And so was McLaurin and Akers. But Fournette obviously isn't a guy that we usually take. Allen fell a bit and gave us a value where he was drafted as quarterback 8 or 9. So we got very nice value on our players, and I think there's a reason to be excited.
Yeah, I like this team a lot, and like I said, it was fun to draft guys like Preston Williams and Ruggs in a range where I'm normally drafting running backs, and to kind of flip that on the switch a little bit. And because we missed out on guys like Kirk, and we go with Dobbins there, that I just like having a slightly different texture to this team, and I just think this has the structure of a team that can really take advantage of this format.
Yeah, I'm interested to see with how Keyshawn Vaughn fell, if that's going to continue with his ADP, and if so, are people going to be drafting Rojo higher?
That's what's wild to me too. Is in general, both with Zach Moss and Keyshawn Vaughn, I just am kind of stunned that their ADPs aren't higher, because they're just traditionally the type of exciting rookies and run and good offenses that people get excited about, and they don't seem to be excited about them based on the ADP.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good rookies this year that it's tough for them to kind of creep up the board. But yeah, very happy with Vaughn in that spot, even though he's typically not one of my guys. But it's nice to get a different squad. Thank you, Willis.
Yep, Willis is always in these drafts and watching these, so he knows my usual builds. It is nice to mix it up and make sure we're diversified a little bit here. Mike, let the people know. I know we mentioned Apex Fantasy Leagues. You guys got a great blog where you guys do what I would call Rotovision type of articles. So if you like Rotoviz, you're going to love the Apex blog. And you guys also just launched a new podcast that I recently checked out as well. Is there anything else I missed where people can check you out?
No, I think that's it. We have really good fantasy leagues. If you're looking for season-long leagues to play in, we've decided that we need at least 6 weeks of NFL football in order to have a complete season. We will refund all 1-year leagues if we don't reach that week 6. So nothing to worry about there. We have drafts going on every night. We have a blog with really good free content. So be sure to check that out. And as Pete said, we also have a pod now. So if you want to hear some more takes, come check it out.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I hadn't before this year in the podcast, I hadn't seen you do much video and podcasting stuff, but you're a natural at it. I'm surprised you haven't been doing it some more before that.
Yeah, my time is taken up by a lot of things, but I think it's the right time to enter the podcast game. And I'm looking forward to hopping on more streams and more podcasts.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming out, drafting this squad. Always have fun bouncing ideas off of you guys in the chat and drafting with you. Thanks to Mike. Check him out at Apex Fantasy Football Leagues. I will be back tomorrow night doing a randomizer live draft with Ray G. You guys might know him, a Devi guy, does a lot of great content. Excited for that. And also, I mentioned on the ship chasing feed, going to be talking to Sean Siegel tonight. So if you were disappointed by us not going true zero RB tonight, today we will get into it with Sean later tonight. We'll see you guys later.